Eat, sleep, bet, repeat. That is how we get down on the opening line. Brought to you by EliteSportsBetting.com. Today is Friday, December 13th. I'm your host, Duke, and we got a big old UFC card this weekend. So, of course, I had to bring the big man in himself, Mad Lab, our combat sports expert over on EliteFantasy.com, and, of course, the betting side of things as well. Mad Lab, how we feeling, brother?
What's going on, man? Psyched for this card. I know you are too.
Top to bottom, nothing but good fights. Typically on these cards, especially the pay-per-views, there's some filler at the start, right? A couple guys maybe making their debut, maybe, some lesser-known girl fights that, typically end up throwing hands, but top to bottom, quality fights in this card.
Yeah, some of these fights, man. I mean, if you really go down to prelims and even the fight pass type prelims, these things can either be on the main card or main events. Some of them, so it's a great card from top to bottom. It's a great way to end the year, and coming into the new year, we got some amazing fights that are already signed, and some of them are getting ready to be signed. So it's going to be good. It's going to be a nice run.
Big kickoff for the end of the year. Like you said, some of these fights literally could be headliners on the lesser card. I mean, it's
about three of them, 3 or 4.
We got, we're going to talk through 5 fights today. We're going to give out some picks. Of course, you can head over to EliteSportsBetting.com for all of Mad Lab's information. And he doesn't win that often, right? What are you hitting? 70, 72%. Last card you did what?
100%, son.
Is that good? Is 100% good?
Yeah, we hit.
Mad Lab's the best, man. But yeah, let's talk through a couple of these fights here. We'll start out with Matt Brown, the Immortal versus Ben Saunders. Obviously, Brown coming off a KO win his last time out. Saunders coming off 3 straight losses. I'm curious to get your thoughts on how this is going to play out. Obviously, Brown's going to bang.
Yeah, the thing with Matt Brown, he's one of my favorite fighters. He's always been. And it has nothing to do with his skill set. It has nothing to do with it's his persona. This guy's a blue collar guy. He comes with his helmet and his bucket every night. There's nothing too crazy. He gets flashy, but it's a wild flashy. He's got that street fight mentality tied into skill. Always had that. He had some concussion issues in the past. He left the sport for a while. Now he's coming back. The positive for him here is he's fighting a guy in Ben Saunders whose chin is absolutely dust. He has been finished 8 times. The last 6 times he was finished, they were all by KO, 1 submission. And this is a guy who has just had a track record of being very skilled. Ben Saunders is a very skilled guy. He's tall, he's long, he knows how to use his range. He's a black belt under Eddie Bravo at 10th Planet, which makes him a very unorthodox, wiry Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, good player. So when you're on the ground with him, these guys from 10th Planet, you have a very different style of grappling, which throws a lot of people off. So he's got that under his belt. However, the guy can't stay on his feet. He can't keep his chin out of his own way. If you catch him once, he's going. And it's just a repetitive thing with him at this point. So now you got a guy like Matt Brown, who comes in very unorthodox himself on his feet, throws a lot of hellacious elbows, a lot of knees. He gets reckless at times, but he always goes for the finish. If you look at Matt Brown's track record, he's kind of kill or be killed, right? I mean, if you really look at him, both of these guys have lost double-digit fights. So both of these guys can lose, but I just think that all the pressure right now is on Ben Saunders. Matt Brown's coming back. It's a kind of a refresh fight for him. The UFC knows that. The UFC knows that he's great for the brand because he's got that bad attitude.
Oh, it's fun.
You love him. I mean, how do you not love him? So I think the UFC knows that Ben Saunders on his way out. And if Matt Brown's going to make a little bit of a return here and cause some waves, this is the perfect fight for him. This is a perfect matchup for Matt Brown to have a big highlight finish. So I love Matt Brown in this spot.
Let me ask you 2 questions in, Lab, because he is coming back off a little layoff. Number 1, could there be some ring rust for Matt Brown? And then number 2, with that wild fighting style, knowing Saunders does want to get this to the ground, is he going to be a little bit more reserved, kind of keep it between the shoulder blades, or is that wild style going to end up maybe missing and slipping, and all of a sudden they're on the ground grappling?
Well, the thing is, a lot of people, I mean, if you listen to guys, even some of the commentators in the UFC, they don't believe in ring rust. They don't think it's a thing. I'm a firm believer of ring rust. I think I separate practice from the actual fight. And it has nothing to do really so much with the actual fight. It has to do with reacclimating yourself with the big lights, with the crowd, with the emotion, with the adrenaline dump. There's a big difference. I know guys in the gym that were phenomenal in the gym. And then once they got into that cage, it was kind of, everything crashed and burned. The whole blueprint is gone. You know, so I do believe in bring Russ. I do think there's going to be an element of Matt Brown where he's going to have to feel his way a little bit around the cage. He's going to have to create his distance, feel everything, and, you know, get his range going. And there is absolutely, like you said, when you have a reckless style like that, you know, sometimes you overswing, you overreach, you expose your hips. Ben Saunders takes him down. But when you're at this level, you just don't stop training. Mm-hmm. You just don't. And Matt Brown's been there 100 times before. So
he's not been sitting on his couch.
Yeah, it's not like he's been sitting on his couch. He's actually been, you know, these guys still train. Even guys like Uriah Faber at 40 years old. You think he's just coming in to fight. This guy runs a school. He's still training. And these are guys that have been around it for so long. There's no such thing as adrenaline dump no more, or nerves. So you're talking adrenaline dump with guys with 6, 7 fights that if they leave and come back. So I don't think it's going to be a problem for him. I think his timing is going to be a problem in the beginning. Mm-hmm. I think his range is going to be a problem in the beginning. But a style like his, range and timing really doesn't play into his style.
True.
So it's really, when you hurt him, that's when he starts firing on all cylinders.
Yeah. So he's a minus 350 favorite. How are we attacking this fight?
I don't think the value is there on Ben Saunders in any way, shape, or form. I wouldn't go near him with a 10-foot pole, so I would completely take him out of the equation. I think minus 350 for a guy like Matt Brown, who has had concussion issues, who has left the game for a while, I don't think there's value there on 350. I personally don't like betting any guys in the over minus 300 unless they're tied into a parlay. I don't think there's any value there, because at the end of the day, it is the fight game. Yeah. You know, but there is value in 2 spots if you wanted to look into it. And one of them is obviously Matt Brown by KO TKO, which it's minus 140 right now, which I think is great value. And there's also one that I saw that we discussed a little bit off air on the phone together, where Ben Saunders has been finished 8 times. In those 8 times, 7 of those times have been in the second round. So he's been getting out of the first round. He's going to his corner stunned, rubbery legs, and the people are finishing him off. 7 of those times that were finished in the second round were all by knockout. So if you guys wanted to tamper with the over 1.5, that's also a little bit of value there that you could look at. But as far as betting these 2 guys straight up, or betting them to go to the distance, or betting inside the distance, the lines are just too out of play. So if you're going to touch that anyway, I would say they would both be in favor of one Matt Brown by TKO KO and maybe over 1.5, because I think it's going to take Matt Brown a little bit of time to kick the rust off too.
That's why you're the best, Mad Lab. Let's find value somewhere, right? We want to bet this fight. We know Matt Brown's going to have a good chance to win, but we can't pay those odds. Find a little value somewhere else. All right, let's move to the ladies, because Amanda Nunez, what else can we say about her at this point? Obviously burst onto the scene for the casuals by just beating the absolute tar out of Ronda Rousey. She's been mowing through girls ever since. I mean, this is a rematch, right? GDR and Nunez fight. I think Nunez mounted her, just basically beat her into submission the first time around. Big favorite here at minus 310. Thinking, kind of seeing the same thing. That was several years ago. Has GDR gotten better?
Yeah, you know, the thing with GDR, she did get a lot better. The problem with her, the lean on her with people were that people thought that she was avoiding Ronda Rousey, that she didn't want to fight her. So they actually stripped her of the belt, and she went off on her way. I do believe as well that she was avoiding Ronda at the time. But people don't understand. This is a very, very dangerous fight. And I do not think this is value in any way, shape, or form at minus 3. It's actually at 320 right now. But the thing with Duran Duran is she knows how to use her range. She only has a 2-inch reach advantage in this fight. But if you watch this fight, she's going to seem a lot longer because she fights very erect. She fights very tall, and she knows she's one of the women in MMA that really understand how to use her range. Somebody like Amanda Nunez, she comes in and she fires over the top. She uses her punches. She comes in, she fires over the top. GDR is somebody almost like we discussed with Holloway, how she comes down the center line. So if Amanda's going to leave that open for her, she's going to end up picking her apart. Amanda Nunez is honestly her best option here is to take this to the ground, because if anybody's going to match her in her striking, it's going to be GDR. So this is actually a much more dangerous fight than people are putting it out to be. This is not an easy fight. The line's making it seem like it's an easy fight. Mm-hmm. People are making it seem like it's an easy fight. GDR is a legit striker. She's a legit striker. There's not many people that she can't compete with. I'm not saying Amanda Nunez is not. She's an amazing, but her best bet in this fight is to try to get GDR to the ground, because if this ends up being a points match, this is what GDR does. She was groomed as a points fighter.
She's going to keep that range, right? So she's like 5'9", 71-inch reach off the top of my head. Nunez is at 69 inches. Is she going to keep her at distance?
Well, that's what she's going to have to do. She's going to have to use her long legs, because you got to remember, a lot of people don't understand, too, how important the kicking game is for range. Your legs are longer than your arms when you strike. So you got plenty room to keep somebody honest with your legs. So GDR is really going to have to use her long limb. She's very long. But yeah, she's going to want to keep her at range. She's going to want to pick her apart. She's going to want to send messages to her. If you come in, you're going to get clipped. Whether it's hard or not, you're still going to get outpointed and clipped. That's what she's going to want to do. I think after a while, Amanda Nunez is going to realize that. She's going to have to take her shot on her hips. She's going to have to try to take her down. She's going to have to work her black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which she does have. She doesn't use it often, but she does have a high pedigree black belt Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But if this stays a straight striking battle for as ever long as it lasts, this isn't as easy a fight as people think.
Right.
So this is a fight I'm staying clear from.
It's almost like the Cyborg fight has just thrown Nunez into another stratosphere where she was, like Rousey was, totally unbeatable. I remember I lost my shirt on the Holly Holm Rousey fight because all I'd seen was her beating the crap out of her, taking everybody down, breaking arms. I feel like that Cyborg fight with Nunez has elevated her into a level where this line is out of whack. GDR can keep that range and give her some issues. And also, I know we don't want to look like the Incredible Hulk in MMA, but Nunez has looked soft. Her body's looked soft to me the last couple of times out.
Yeah, that's something that I'm actually glad you brought that up. The thing about fighting is sometimes it's better to be a little soft. And the reason why is if you look at all the greatest fighters, and I'll bring this into boxing a little bit. If you look at guys like Muhammad Ali, like he had the perfect smooth boxer's body. And the reason why you don't want to be so muscular when you're in any kind of a grappling sport or a boxing, when your hands are up, is because when you have that much muscle, when you're loaded up with muscle, A, you're not as limber. B, you have major lactic acid buildup where your arms and your wrists get tired and stuff like that. And it takes more oxygen to oxygenate your body. So sometimes when you're smoother, it's better. I do agree she did get smoother than she was. That comes with fame and that comes with fortune and all the other shit that comes, But at the end of the day, it's not a horrible thing. I'd much rather see her a little smoother than more trucked up and jacked up, because the girl does have a good gas tank. She is limber. She does throw great combinations. She throws punches and bunches. But like I said, man, I don't know. Like, it seems like you agree with me. This is a fight that I wouldn't be shocked. Let's just say I would not be shocked if GDR ended up pulling this off. I wouldn't be shocked. I'm not picking her to. I'll say right on your show right here that I'm picking Amanda Nunez. But I wouldn't jump off my couch and say, holy shit.
I would. All right, let's move on to Holloway, Volken, Offski, because I am jacked about this fight as well. Like you said, Holloway, super technical striker. I was watching Volken Offski's fights last night. I mean, that right hand is an absolute piston for this guy. Holloway had been running through the division, but he had that decision loss to Poirier. 3 stoppages in a row prior to that loss. He's a taller guy. Volken Offski has that right hand. Knocked out Mendez, knocked out Kennedy, coming off a nice win over the former pound-for-pound great Jose Aldo. Holloway, minus 185 favorite here. How do you see this one playing out?
I see this line is exactly, I think, where it should be.
Yeah, me too.
It really looks like they set this line perfect. I love Volken Offski. I love what he brings to the table. But it's Max Holloway, man. I mean, he's what I call a generational fighter. And he really does have it all. I mean, we don't even see his grappling, but he actually does have decent grappling. His takedown defense is meh, you know what I mean? But he's so wiry and long that he understands, he knows where he is at all times when he hits the canvas, and he pops right back up. It's just his striking style. It's the way he keeps his range, the way he keeps his distance. He understands and he just knows the game. He has a game plan, a blueprint, and he kind of adheres to it. If something starts going wrong, he makes adjustments. Fighting's all about adjustments. Mm-hmm. That's really what it's all about. It's not about if you knock somebody out in 3 seconds and, hey, look at me, I won. It's how you go back to the corner and you right the wrong and come back and right the ship with an adjustment, whether it's switching, to southpaw, going to whatever it may be. He does everything perfect. He really, really does. He's had a blip in the radar. We've seen it, but when this guy is on and he's dialed in, I don't care who it is. Volkanovski, I don't care who it is. You're just not going to beat him. He needs an off night. Something needs to be wrong with his weight cut, his sickness, his style. Something needs to be wrong with Max Holloway for him to lose. But if he's dialed in, I don't see anybody beating him anytime soon.
Is this going to go the distance, or do you see a stoppage here?
I can honestly see him stopping Volkanovski. I can, but I think it could also be one of those fights where as the rounds go on, he's just going to start frustrating the shit out of him. You're going to see Volkanovski taking desperation shots on his hips. He's just not, because listen, he's strong. Like you said, he's got a piston for a right hand. But what else can you say about his striking?
And he's got that muscular body like you were talking about.
Right. Does he have a jab? Does he know how to throw combinations? Does he understand, how to come underneath? Holloway knows everything about, the center line striking, and he doesn't throw ones and twos. He throws threes, fours, and fives, ties them in with leg kicks, skirts away from the cage, switches stances. Like, he's actually like a magician on his feet. I mean, it's kind of crazy when if you really appreciate the game and you watch his footwork. I just think he's going to frustrate him. I think Volkanovski's going to put him in trouble in spots early, but I think as the rounds go on, he's just going to start pulling away.
And when I was digging into this fight lab, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, I pictured Holloway as someone who was a point accumulator. I thought he had more decisions than he did, so I was actually surprised to see those 3 stoppages in a row. But it's relentless pressure, right? His gas tank has never been emptied, ever. So you think about a 5-round fight, if that could be an issue. Volkanovski, with that muscular body and running out of options, everything's to set up that right hand, right? So I don't know. I could see Holloway stopping this one.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you said it perfectly. He does it with volume. He's not going to hit you with one shot and knock you out like Volkanovski could. He does it with volume. It's almost like Nate Diaz, right? Nate Diaz isn't a powerful puncher. He does it with volume. He just overwhelms you to the point you just cower away in the corner. You buckle down, and the ref calls it. He's not going to knock you out cold, but he'll knock you out. So, I mean, look at his last fight. I forget which fight it was where he broke the record in significant strikes. I mean, it was ludicrous, the amount of strikes he was throwing. You know what I mean? And it didn't even seem like he did so much. It was because we're so used to seeing him throw that volume that we didn't even really think about it.
He's just picking you off. Against Ortega, he threw 290
That's the fight.
Significant strikes.
That's the fight. And look what he did to him. He literally brutalized him.
I mean, this isn't DraftKings or DFS show, but I like Holloway in this fight. All right, let's talk about the man, the myth, the legend, Jose Aldo against Moraes here. I'm worried about this weight cut, Lab. I want to hear what you have to say because he's dropping down to 135. I thought he struggled at 145. How's he going to make this work?
All right, so, a lot of people, they look at Aldo and they look at him like some defeated fighter. The guy's not as old as you think.
Right.
A lot of people think he's like this god. They call him the godfather of this. He's older, but he's not as old as you think. He's really technically not past his prime years, but he's been in so many wars and he had so many fights that a fighter's age is a lot different than our age. So this is the first time, which is kind of shocking to me, that he's bumping down to 135. There's a pro and a con to this. The pro is that he's going to go down to 135, which is obviously a tough weight cut, but he's going to inflate into a bigger man. He was always kind of small for 155. If you really look at his fights, he was always kind of small. So he might be a little bigger. He might feel a little bigger, a little stronger, a little more confident with the power coming back at him at this weight class. That's the pro. The con is the weight cut. When you have a terrible, terrible weight cut, it takes time to rehydrate yourself because there's no more IV infusions anymore. You're not allowed to do it anymore. So he's got to do it naturally, unless they're going to do something illegal and he doesn't get caught. I don't know. But he did not look good in his weight cut. He looked very depleted. He looked like Skeletor. You could see his cheekbones. But in all his interviews, what I watch when these guys are depleted, I watch their eyes. You really got to watch their eyes during the interview because when you're super, super uncomfortable with the weight that you're at, your eyes start drifting. You almost have anxiety and like a nervosa to you. And you'll be doing an interview. You'll be looking around almost like you're afraid that everyone's watching you. He was completely dialed in on an interview. He's laughing, comfortable. He didn't seem like he was uncomfortable in any way, shape, or form. Like he seemed like he was handling the weight cut fine. No attitude, nothing, no heavy breathing. So this is a fight that honestly scares me. It honestly scares me because if we see vintage Aldo, we see vintage healthy Aldo, there's no reason why he can't run roughshod on him. But we can also see an Aldo that we're like, why isn't he firing a leg kick? Why is it, you know what I mean? It's a really, really tough call. But I got to be honest with you, man. I'm leaning Aldo.
Oh, my God. Here we go. When was the last time we saw vintage Aldo? And isn't it the total opposite? Don't you go up in weight class as you age? I know you're saying he's looked good doing it, but I'm worried about that weight cut and just, his ability to fire when the lights come on.
Yeah, well, see, that's the whole thing. When you just said this guy has been through it all, he's got mental issues when it comes to confidence. We've known that. I mean, if you look at his reign before he fought McGregor, it was absolutely ridiculous.
Unstoppable. Yep.
It was unstoppable. He was unstoppable. And then when he fought McGregor and he got knocked out, it was one of the biggest falls from grace I've ever seen in MMA. He had a couple big wins that brought him back. And then obviously the last couple fights, he's been very up and down. One fight, he looks like vintage Aldo. Another fight, he looks like a guy who just needs to retire.
Like against Stevens, he looked like a beast. He was back.
Exactly. 100%. And that was the fight that I thought was bringing him back into relevance. He had his confidence back. He was jumping all over his trainers. He was crying like he just won the belt. Like, it was almost like he knew in his heart he needed that fight to get.
That worried me a little bit, Lab, because for me, Jose Aldo should beat Jeremy Stevens. His emotion after that, it was almost like he surprised himself. It was relief, not confidence.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Then he came back again, and he didn't look like vintage Aldo. So that's the thing that scares me here. I don't know. I would love to take a small plug on Aldo at plus money because it is Jose Aldo, but I don't like throwing bullets at blind targets. You know, and when you don't know and there's no consistency and there's a seesaw of win, loss, and now he's in a new weight division, sometimes I like just to sit back and show me what you can do at 135. Let me see what you could do here. And if you do well, maybe I'll reconsider again the next time. But throwing blindly, hoping for vintage Aldo and hoping, it's Aldo, he's a dog.
After an extreme weight cut, yeah.
After an extreme weight cut, it's kind of hard to really get behind it. I haven't made a decision on it yet. If I will or I won't, it'll be in my article if I decide to. But it's tough, man. It's kind of throwing a bullet at a blind target.
We have to check that out over on EliteSportsBetting.com when Lab puts those bets out the night of the fight. And the last one we're going to talk about here, the big one, the main event, Colby versus Usman. I'm going to treat you like Kirk Herbstreit, all right? You're calling this fight. Let's break it down, but we're going to save your pick for the subscribers over at EliteSportsBetting.com. Obviously, we might disagree on this fight. Usman, the favorite, coming in. Colby, the bad guy. I love the way he plays the villain. He's embraced that role. Who do you like in this matchup?
No, I'm going to ask you. Who do you like?
I love Colby in this matchup.
I
love Colby in this match. And here's why. I forgot how good of a striker he is. Now, you think of him taking someone down, ground and pound, gas tank, constant work rate, constant pressure. I forgot he can bang a little bit. So I was thinking this has to get to the ground right away. Usman obviously having the advantage on the feet, but I was watching some fights last night, doing a little film study, Lab. I don't know. I think Colby can hang on the feet. Maybe take him down, maybe ground and pound, frustrate, start playing up the crowd, and get that victory. I don't know if he's going to stop him, but 5 rounds, give me that gas tank.
Who did now the fight that you saw that he had good hands? Who was it against?
It was just a whole compilation. It was a compilation basically of his last 4 fights. I think it was Dos Anjos, and then the Kim fight for sure. He was beating him up, and Barberena was the other one I was looking at, where I thought Barberena would have the advantage on the feet, but he was beating him up pretty good there. The Kim fight, especially though, surprised me.
Right. Yeah. Listen, he definitely transcended his game a lot. I'll give you that. And I'm not a Colby Covington advocate. I don't like him. Never liked him. For a while, I always thought he was more mouth than he was play. Mm-hmm. But he has slowly proven me wrong. The guy's a legit fighter, a legit athlete. He's got one of the most elite gas tanks in MMA. But when I broke this down, and when I break these fights down, I really break them down in sections. And I don't just watch the fight and be like, wow, look at that knockout or look at that takedown. I break them down, and I'm going to release something in a couple weeks probably for the subscribers to read how I break it down. But I go from the wrestling to the clinch game to the stand-up to the cardio to the chin to how they even look when they walk into the cage. Are they warm? Do they have a glaze on them? Like, I look at their eyes, look at their breathing. Like, I look at everything. And there's only really one area where I think Colby Covington has him, and it's cardio. Mm-hmm. And that's great. But Usman has cardio as well. I think Usman's a stronger fighter. I think he's the faster fighter. I think he's the better wrestler. I think he's the better striker. And I also think that he is a more confident fighter. I really, really do. I think he's a more confident fighter because if you watch Usman's fights, have you ever seen him hurt?
No.
Well, he lost one fight. He lost to Alex Caceres' brother years ago. And Covington lost to Warley Alvarez when he got caught in the guillotine choke. But if you really watch his fights, when have you ever seen him like in trouble or like hurt. You're like, oh my God, bro, you might get finished here. You've seen Covington on his back foot plenty of times in fights on the feet where he would win. He would end up coming back and maybe dominating the fight. But I've seen him get clipped a couple times and he started taking steps back. And I've seen him in trouble. I've never seen Usman in trouble. And the way Usman fights, he comes in on an angle. He pressures you on an angle and he pressures you against the cage. These guys know that their wrestling is going to nullify each other.
Yep.
They're not going to be going for hips and going for takedowns. They might have a little jock measuring contest at some point in the fight. But I just think that Usman's going to be the one stalking him. I think the judges are going to see that he's the one stalking him. And I think it's just going to take a couple times for him to clip him. And Kobe's going to start thinking twice about throwing. Kobe might be the one taking desperation shots. And Usman will match his wrestling. So it's going to be a great fight. I'm not sitting here saying it's going to be easy. It's going to be a walk in the park. But when I go through all the categories and I go through every section of fighting, I really only see Covington having him on the cardio. And if you have good cardio already, it's not much of an edge.
That's a good point. I mean, I think the worry here is Covington obviously knowing he's going to have to press the issue, especially late in rounds, just to outpoint him and maybe rushing in and getting clipped. But I take the opposite stance on Usman. It's great that he's never been worried or never been battered or anything, but what happens when he does? We literally haven't seen him respond to that yet. So if Colby grabs him or if Colby takes him down easier than Usman thought and puts a little ground and pound on him, how does he respond off his back?
Well, that's exactly what that's the one avenue where I look at. I don't judge a fighter until they lose. And I'm not talking about losing to Caceres years ago.
Right.
When you're put in a bad spot. I look at a fighter, what do you look like when you're put in a really, really bad spot? Or, what do you look like? How do you lose your mind? Do you panic? You're all of a sudden the blueprint in your mind is gone. You forget everything you know, how to sweep, how to pull rubber guard, how to do all these things because now you're panicking. Oh my God, I might lose. So we've never really seen Usman there. We've seen Covington in situations where he would bounce back and stick out his tongue and he would come forward. Mm-hmm. So Covington is the guy that can do that to Usman. Without a doubt, he could put him in that situation and really start. Listen, we saw it with McGregor against Nate Diaz. He went for a panic shot against a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
He gave up.
He gave up. Literally gave up. And he didn't even let the choke go in. He started tapping, as soon as the choke was sunk in. So we don't know where Usman is there. I don't look at him like that. I'd be shocked if he was the type of guy where like he just rolled over, keeled over and died.
Nah.
So it's going to be a great fight, man. I mean, honestly, take a coin and flip it. But like the way I broke it down, I just think that Usman is a little bit better everywhere. But hey, that's why mistakes are made. Doesn't mean nobody can make a mistake and he can't get clipped and he can't get taken down.
And, of course, we'll wait for the article out on EliteSportsBetting.com to get your final pick for that game. If we're going to attack it from any other angle. And I think you can use code LUNCH20 for 20% off any of these packages on either site right now. So make sure to take advantage of that. Lab, it's been fun, man. We got to do this more often.
Yeah,
if you haven't yet, sign up for his package because Mad Lab is the GOAT.
I'm going to get you on the pod, too. Me and you are going to do the whole card. Maybe we'll do it for the Khabib and Ferguson fight.
That'd be sweet. Love it.
Do the whole card together.
Cool. We'll do it. And you can find Lab on Lunch Money today over at EliteSportsBetting.com. Of course, sign up for his article. We'll get you guys out of here with that. For Mad Lab, I'm your host, Duke. See ya.